It's a scorcher of a day today. This is September, so not summer according to the calendar, but certainly summer according to the temperature. This gorgeous warm weather is very much welcome. The garden is very happy. It's had lots of water and now it's getting lots of heat as well. Now today's video is a continuation of my summer garden tour series, and this one is going to be focusing on the trees I have in this garden and the tall structures. Now, as I mentioned in my Planning a Tropical Border video, the first thing I think about is, what are the tall plants and trees that I want growing above my head? Now, trees can give your garden some real character. As they occupy that vertical space up above you, it just helps to give you that feeling that your garden is a place that encloses you. So a tree is pretty much any woody or perennial plant that has the propensity to grow a single stem or a trunk to a considerable height. Now, using that definition, in this garden I have no less than 30 of them. Now, having a small garden, I will of course stay on top of those that I don't want to get too big. But equally, I'm just as excited about allowing those to grow that can and seeing where they reach. So I'll show you around all of the trees that I've got growing in the garden. I'll share their names as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So I'll start my tour today with my favourite tree in the garden. That's the Tropiclaud wagnerianus, or the waggy palm, which is much easier to say. This palm has proven to be amazingly hardy in my UK garden. No rain, snow or wind has had any poor impact on this. It's doing really well, growing really strong. As you'll see, I've got it in a pot. That's purely as a matter of preference because this is where I want it to be on the patio, so I can see it through my patio doors. And just a tip for anybody else who can't wait for these to grow is I've put the pot on top of a stool just to give it an extra foot or so of height, and that way it actually towers over my head as a result. So yeah, the waggy palm, definitely recommended for the UK gardens. Really, really strong. Moving along from there, the next tree that I want to share with you is this one. I'm just going to take a seat so that you can see the stem underneath. So this is the Cotinus cogigrea purple, or the smoke tree. Now, I bought this as a small shrub, and many do think that these are shrubs, but in actual fact, if you leave them alone, they can grow up to about 4 or 5 meters tall with a single stem or trunk. Now, this is naturally just developing that trunk there. Now, one of the reasons why I love this tree is the rounded leaves on it and that rich dark burgundy. And as you can see, the leaves that are changing now that we're heading into autumn are taking on more of that deep dark orange colour. It's beautiful to look at, and as we move deeper into autumn, you'll see the whole of this tree taking on that colour. It's really stunning. I'm looking forward to that sizing up. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll be no stranger to this gorgeous cordlin Charlie boy. Now, cordlins do grow a single trunk stem. As you cut the old leaves away, you see a trunk start to develop because it is effectively a tree. So next to that we have the roost tree, or the common name is the sumac. This is a deciduous tree and I've bought it purely for the foliage. Look at the leaves. I love the leaf shape on these. That serrated edge. It's also going to be stunning as we move deeper into autumn. We'll see the oranges and the yellows on that. I bought it about 4 feet tall on eBay, and it's put on at least 2 feet in this one season. I've got 2 of these. The other one is a lot smaller. That one's just here. As you can see, darker green leaves on this one, potentially a different genus of it, but it's doing okay. This was about £4, I think, in a garden centre in a forgotten corner somewhere. But the roost tree there, as you can see, it's going to give me a lovely canopy over my seating area, and already there it stands proud and just looks beautiful in that border. So next we have the Yucca gloriosa. I have 3 of these in the garden, just slightly to the left there you can see I have a variegated one, and I'll show you the other one that's on the patio as well in a pot, but this one's in the ground. It's already developing a fantastic trunk on it, and I got it from a Facebook seller. This tree is an architectural beauty. As you can see, the leaves are very, very sharp. It does flower in the summer as well. It looks great in a Mediterranean style garden. And I did buy this one pretty large to begin with. It has pushed out some new leaves this summer. I'll share with you a picture of me getting it home in the car. It was a challenge, but well worth it. It seems to be happy in this raised planter here. And as I say, the trunk is coming along nicely now. Here's the other Yucca gloriosa that I have that's in a pot. Nice tall planter near the house. That's doing well. That is also next to a bay tree, which I have up against the house. I bought this in the summer. In fact, I think it was in the spring. It still has its lovely circular shape, but I may well keep that pruned and small as well. Also against the house, I have a little bit of a living wall vibe going on. We've got a sago palm here, which joined the family this year. I have it here in a pot, again near to the house. Decent size as well. This was only £15 from Morrison's. Don't sleep on Morrison's, they're great for plants. And perhaps we'll get a flush of leaves, a flush of new fronds next year. I know from other growers that it tends to be a bit of a lottery as to whether they open each year. So another type of yucca that I have, still on the patio here, is the Yucca rostrata. I love the fine leaves on this. I've also had some new leaves push out this season. I was a bit worried because where it was before it wasn't doing very well. So I've got it in a tall planter. Eventually that may well go in the ground as well. Lots of gravel, lots of aeration in there for it to grow. So what other trees do I have in the raised planter then? I've got a Trachycarpus fortunei here. Any tropical plant grower will have this in their garden. I have a few of these, and this is the largest one that I have here. It was in a pot, but I got it in the ground over the summer, and it seems to be happy here. It doesn't get a lot of sun here either, but it has been pushing out some new fronds, as you can see. So I've put this here wanting to grow it eventually for privacy in this corner from houses just over this fence here. We do have in the midst of that a Paulownia, which hasn't done this well in the garden this season. The leaves haven't gotten anywhere near as big as they can get, and the reason is because this area is completely shaded off. So I know the Paulownia would prefer sun. You can see even the leaves that it has aren't that happy with the brown spot there. But I put it here again in the hopes that I could get it nice and tall so that it could give some privacy. If I can just get it above the fence, then it will get more sun and it will grow much quicker and definitely more successfully than it is right now. So the last tree that I want to show you in the patio area is this Chimerops humilis, which I've currently got in a pot and displayed in a basket there. And it is time now for this to come out and either be repotted in something bigger or in the ground if I can find space. If you can find space in this garden, then do let me know where you think this should go. But it is starting to yellow slightly, so I know it's time to get it moving out of there. And we do have some fronds that are starting to push from the middle, but this did really, really well through the winter, I should say. No damage on this whatsoever. The larger one that I have, which I'll show you, did have spear pull. But I'm glad to report that it has recovered from that. We have some new fronds growing through, and I'll show you that shortly. So if I just go across the way here, here's the second of my Trachycarpus fortunei, a mainstay of the tropical garden. And just to the right of that, I have a Dicksonia antarctica tree fern, which was bought in the spring this year, which I've got to say was a real surprise buy. It was only £30. I'll show you the trunk that's on it. Quite small, but the fronds have been pushing out profusely, and we actually have, now those of you who have Dicksonia antarcticas, you will be no strangers to feeling around the crown. You can see just there that we have, if I can get it in focus, a few more fronds about to pop out of there. I think at least 3. So that's good. It's been really, really good for me. It's really grown well in this space. And from what I'm now learning about these plants, they love the shade and they love the water. So I've been really happy with how this one has grown. Okay, so moving along here. Here is what was my largest Cordyceps australis last year. You'll have seen in previous videos this was cut down by the winter, but I needn't have worried because look what's going on out of the top of it. We now have 2 new heads that have grown out of the old trunk. Isn't nature amazing? It also has a side shoot down there. So there's a lot of life left in this one yet. So this is the larger of my Chimerops humilis. You'll have seen that this palm suffered spear pull in June. But look what we have here. It has indeed recovered, and thank you for those who commented and said that it would come back, because you were absolutely right. Here we have a bunch of new fronds there coming back where we lost the old ones. Just behind there I have this Lelandii, the Gold Rider variety. I wanted some Lelandii growing at the back there just to again create some more privacy. It has been fast growing for me. Last year I think it got as tall as the fence. This year we have all of that additional growth there growing up there. So trying to create the illusion, if you like, of depth. It will take time to do. I've got bamboo back there which will eventually grow up, but I do love this tree. It's a tall grower. I know it has the potential to grow really big, but eventually I'd like to skin the trunk towards the bottom and let it do its thing up there in that. I have here a red robin, one of my favourites in this garden. The red leaves will soon appear again on this. As you can see, I'm growing it as a single stemmed tree. And to the right of that, I have the larger of my Dixonia Antarctica tree ferns. It's done really well in this space. Let's show you the trunk there. Now, as you know, these are incredibly slow growers, but you're constantly rewarded with the flush of fronds that come through. And I do have a couple of new ones about to emerge from the furry crown down there. So another firm favourite of this garden. It's just a magnificent tree. And I'm looking forward to seeing as that gets taller and taller over the years. Over here in the wider border, I also have this Butea odorata palm, a gorgeous feather palm that I acquired this year, and I've already done a video on this which I'll pop in the corner for you. And behind that, a cherry blossom tree, another tree that may not be considered particularly tropical, but I've always loved blossom trees since I was little. When they come out in flower in the spring, this one's growing pretty fast. I bought it small a couple of years ago. I love the backdrop this gives again against the fence. Next to what has now become a bit of a banana grove, and I've already showed you these in my large leaf video, I have an Indian bean tree, also purchased on Facebook Marketplace for £15 this year, and look how tall it is. It's just been giving all summer. I love the golden green leaves on this. It's deciduous, so we will lose those, but eventually the hope is that that gives us some privacy just there, and the speed at which it's growing, I have no doubt that that will happen quickly. If anything, it's kind of giving me the Paulonia leaf vibe, which I was hoping the Paulonia would give us this year, but this is in a much better spot. In front of that we have the silver birch. Now I got this year purely because I love the colour that the bark will eventually be, the silvery grey. At the bottom you can see a little bit of it coming through, But this is a multi-stemmed silver birch tree, which I think will look so good against all of the jungly foliage. And again, we have the contrast because of these little dainty leaves here in comparison to all of the larger leaves that I have behind it. So in this video, I'm also going to include the Schefflera taiwaniana, and that's purely because eventually this too will grow tall on the single stem inside there. And I will get rid of the foliage at the bottom and let it do that. This is a magnificent plant, very, very hardy and evergreen, so it provides the interest all year round. Low down to the ground at the moment, but it put on a decent amount of weight this season. And if that's indicative of what I've got to come, then this will be a taller tree in no time. Whilst I'm a lover of tropical plants, I very much still love my buxus and conifer. I have a selection here. There's a picea there, and this one, it's a conifer that I bought for really cheap from the garden centre because it was on its way out, and as you can see it's completely dry now, but I keep it purely because I love that coppery brown. And there's a red star doing well in that pot, which will also be protected if I want to preserve it this year in the winter, and it will also grow a trunk for me. So there's another tree. So what I'll show you now before we close this one out is my range of bamboo and grass. Enjoyed this one. If you've got a smaller garden space, you needn't be put off by the idea of growing trees. They're what give your garden real character, and the height makes such a difference when it comes to a jungle planting scheme. Join me for the last part of this tour where I'll share with you the plants that I use as fillers. Take care.